Hello all, and welcome back to DannyBTrainz. We are back today for episode number 8 of the one square at a time route that we have been creating here in Trainz 22 after a good gap in videos. Unfortunately, things just got pretty hectic for me over the last few weeks. I got sick, which impacted me for around 2 whole weeks. Things have also been pretty slammed with my full-time job lately, but everything is all good on my end. And hopefully we can find some time here and there to get back to some more content here in Trainz 22. We've got this project going, and then we've got a new AI-inspired project going with Montana in the fall. So this week's video is a rather short one, but it was a fun area to build. We are continuing on with the extension line we set up in the last video that leads into the area of Addison Heights. I think the whole point of this line is really for trains to work around the city if they have absolutely zero reason to enter into the yard that we have been developing in our bigger metro area. But we named our last area Addison Heights because it is just on the outskirts of an area we are referring to as Addison Creek on a rather big lake. Outside of my enjoyment of trains and NASCAR, I love to fish. I just got done with a 2-day weekend on Timms Ford Lake in Tennessee where I caught this massive striper using my Garmin live scope to find a school of stripers. That was such a fun fish to fight. So after working so much on a city, I really wanted to incorporate some kind of water into my new area I'm creating. I love being on the water, so that's just another reason why I may not be creating as much in Trainz 22 for a bit. When the weather is warmer and nicer, I like to be on the water fishing as much as possible. Trains is definitely a better hobby for the fall and winter time, one could say. But anyway, so since I fish a lot and wanted to incorporate a lake in here, I had a thought. We kind of established a crew change location along the road in Addison Heights that was on an elevated platform above the road, but what if CSX had another option not too far away that is accessible by boat? So that led me to create this scene where a pontoon boat can come in and pick up and drop off crews here, taking them back over to a boat ramp or some place where the crews can leave their vehicles and or be dropped off. I really like the idea of this and want an excuse to practice building a dock of some kind on the lake. We'll definitely have plenty more as the lake scene progresses. Now fair warning, at around the 1334 mark I accidentally missed some of the build. What I do is I record these as I am building, not all at once. I sometimes need to step away and stop my progress, so I pause the recording in OBS and then I resume the recording when I get back into it. And then oftentimes we'll just stop recording after I'm done for the day I'm working on it and save the route and then open it back up and start recording again, and we do that process where we have to pause it whenever I'm stepping away from it. So in this case, I thought I had resumed when in reality I did not. So we lost a little gap in there as we developed the dock area for this scene some more. I tried to avoid missing stuff if at all possible because I like to give everyone the full look at how each new scene was created. It's always fun to see how much longer certain areas take to create, especially comparing our more urban square areas compared to the rural areas of the map. So anyways, with all that said, let's get into the build some more as we take things one square at a time here in Trainz 22. I'm Danny B. Let's get back to it. do it for another episode of One Square at a Time here on DannyBTrainz. Let me know what you guys thought of what we built in today's episode. Up next in episode 9, we'll be expanding out our yard some more, along with the metro area that is divided among each side of the tracks, and we'll be bringing in the interstate along with us too. So still plenty more to get done in this series, and at some point I do want to establish what is next for the fall Montana route. I just have not had enough time to get back to that one like I had originally hoped for. I guess it's easier to just hop straight into one square at a time and make whatever I think looks good. With the AI route, I need to do a few more steps. So until next time we see each other, this is Danny B, and if you are enjoying these Trainz 22 videos, be sure to subscribe to my channel and check out more videos here. And as always, I hope you have a great day. Bye guys.